Hello, once again, beautiful people, and welcome to the Soul Ashraya podcast, a weekly bhakti podcast. We shall seek the shelter and wisdom of our dear Lord Krishna with Shastra, prayer, and conversation. I am your host, Bhakta Jake, and I am joined with my friend and teacher, Balaram Shakti Das, and we thank you for watching our videos on YouTube. And for anyone who tunes into the Zoom meeting, we thank you. Please, on our YouTube, like our videos, subscribe, do all those things, ring bells. I don't know, but we've got a show for you today. We have some stories about the LA Ratha Yatra that Balaram went to. When was it, Balaram? Last week? It was
Last weekend.
last weekend, the LA Ratha Yatra. And we don't have to, talk about it all episode, but if you want to just give us a little bit of like, anything great that happened or cool or anything like that. I know it's Sunday afternoon and we've been working all week, but
Yeah.
we're going to come through with this is our seva on to Krishna, and we're going to highlight for sure Ratha Yatra and Lord Jagannath for sure. Take it away, Balaram.
Yeah, okay. Well, because we've talked about Ratha Yatra for a couple shows.
Yeah.
So people can check those episodes out to learn about the festival itself.
Yes.
LA is just kind of one of those, just like New York City, it's kind of on that same tier of just like quintessential Ratha Yatra. It's like the paragon, if you will, of that whole festival, which is a giant parade um, of these deities. So it's uh, the celebration of Jagannath, the Lord of the universe. And so these festivals, you get to see this glimpse of like the awesomeness and the true sense of the word, of Krishna.
Yeah.
Krishna in this opulence and his magnanimity, that as Jagannath, he's doing things. Like there's, what was that one? There's just like a spark of memory that came to me that, yeah, I think just, people who are seeing, because there's the three carts, right? There's three floats. They're not floats. They don't float. They're carts. They're pulled by hand.
Yep.
Some the smaller festivals, you'll just have one. You'll have all three deities on one cart, but the bigger ones, you'll have three full carts. And just, I don't think the memory is coming to me, but it sort of thing like, because each cart there's a kirtan party. There's a whole, assembly around each cart, in front of the carts, singing kirtan, singing, dancing, pulling the carts, just having a grand old time. And you get glimpses. Maybe an example coming, but you get glimpses of how actually Jagannath is pulling all the strings here. It's like we're pulling the cart, but he's pulling the strings, that are pulling the cart and everything that's happening. And it's just, there are these like glimpses of, wow, it's actually him doing that, or yeah, okay, yeah, because we were in front of Jagannath's cart. He's up front, and Kirtaneshwar was next to me for a little bit, and I don't remember who was singing, but the cart actually stopped right in an intersection. The streets are closed, but it was right in this big intersection. And, there's all these people,
Yeah.
Californians,
Oh yeah.
home one. Sorry.
Yeah, we from New York.
No, we love them. But it was just like this moment, Jagannath is up there. He's got this big smile, which is painted on his face, of course, is painted. But when you develop spiritual vision and you get moments of it, you get glimpses of spiritual vision, because Jagannath, he's spreading mercy, right? This is what it's all about. We've talked about this in our other episodes on Ratha Yatra, that is all about spreading of mercy. And so Jagannath, his mood is like, I want to show you, I want to include you in what I'm experiencing, right? It's a real thing. Doesn't matter what spiritual tradition you're in, that's what it's all about. God is the supreme enjoyer, and we are his parts and parcels. We're meant to enjoy on the same level as him, but we don't know how to, right? And so Jagannath, the whole Hare Krishna movement, which is Lord Chaitanya's movement, it's centered around Ratha Yatra, actually. It's centered around Chaitanya's relationship with Jagannath, which is so incomprehensible to us. But what it is, it's the ultimate exposition of devotee and the Lord, the devotee serving the Lord, and how the devotee is serving the Lord and spreading that service to others, right? That's what's happening. So the Rath festival is like the most magnanimous manifestation of that. And so the result of the divine revelation that occurs in spiritual life, right? Spiritual vision, manifestation of God, realization of God, that occurs very, very rapidly, very readily. It's very accessible in the Ratha Yatra, because the path to that, the method, if you will, the means of attaining that is service. And the mood of service is very accessible in the Hare Krishna movement, right? It's very easy. It's maybe not easy, but it's simple to just get into that mood. It can be very difficult. And so that was another thing. That there's always like these phases. There's like actually, I was listening to a friend of mine speak about the spiritual path and the challenges on the path. He was saying how there's like a honeymoon phase where it's like you come and you're like, wow, that was amazing, Krishna. And then there's like a challenge phase, and it's like every part of you is like, not necessarily every part, but there's a part of you, let's say, that is trying, that wants it, that believes in it, and there's the part of you that's totally resisting it and like rebelling, I think is what he used. There's a rebellion against it, and your mind is like, I don't want to do this, I want to do something else. And oh my god, okay, there's a lot more than I thought there'd be.
No, it's okay. This is so good. It's so that what you were saying
Yeah,
was so spot on, because that's really what like my first Rath Yatra, I will never forget that. And it really is. That's what it is. It's like that absolute picture of the devotee serving the Lord. Like that, it is so central to the Hare Krishna movement, to the Sankirtan. I mean, it literally is Sankirtan
yeah,
in the streets. And they do it all in all these like major
it's like
cities all across the
3D
world.
full color, right?
Yeah, you get like the whole picture.
Yeah.
So even if you're like just completely not a spiritual person at all, and when you see that, you're like, whoa, what am I looking at? Like you're like, what the heck is going on here? What is this? Like it has that effect on anyone who sees it, and it just makes you like if I
Did
was
you
in,
have that experience when you first like saw the carts and
Dude, I was in absolute tears. I could not
mm,
stop crying. We were walking up Fifth Avenue and we turned on to 45th, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I just could not stop crying for like an hour. And people were like, "Oh, Jake, are you okay?" And I was like, "I'm really, really good." Like, they're like, "Why are you crying?" Because I'm so happy. Like, yeah, I was straight up just bawling. And we turned, we saw all the cards. Everyone's doing little kirtan here and there and everywhere. And like people, person after person, just bowing down on the streets of New York City. Like, I'm sure the cleanest streets in the world, like just bowing down on the streets. And of course, like I did that just over and over and over again,
yeah,
like without a care. I just loved it so much. And it was like just, it hit me hard. It was like a ton of bricks. So if you're like a total non-believer and you don't believe in anything, even if you see it, it does something to your brain. Like, what am I looking at? Like, this is crazy. What is going on here? And but it still makes you question, like, what is going on here? And it's central. It is the same Kirtana movement. In every, it's the clear picture. It's the definition, if you will, of the movement for sure. I agree with that statement 100%. So yeah, it seems like the LA, they did not have the protesters, or I guess I shouldn't say protesters, but they
yeah.
didn't have
No,
any disruptions.
yeah, that's correct. Where did you hear that?
Um, One of my friends told me that actually. He said that it was the first time in 40 years. In
The very
40?
first.
They've been doing that for 40 years? So the mood was
40
extra
years.
nice.
What's that?
The mood without the people yelling and screaming and like throwing raw meat on the Hare
It
Krishnas.
was nice. It was nice and peaceful. Yeah. It's like, oh, it was actually kind of bittersweet. It's like, oh, they're not here. Oh man.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of
I,
fun.
yeah, I guess in a
But it's
way,
also like it just, you know, that it's that energy.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
so not having that there was just like, oh, so this is what it's like to be able to just peacefully chant. Of course, we know what that experience is, but uh
Yeah.
it's been kind of like emblematic of the LA Ratha Yatras. They're these what is it, Southern Baptists? Or is it the
I don't
West? What is it? What's
know.
the other one?
Um, there's Southern Baptists and then there's the Westboro Baptists. I don't,
Westboro.
yeah,
I don't
I don't know
know
if
if it's
they're a different
Westboro.
denomination. I don't know. There's so many Baptist denominations.
Anyway, sort of
Yeah,
extremist,
right.
um,
Sure.
fundamentalist group, which
Yeah,
most Christians would denounce, that they're not real Christian. But the things that, I mean, a
yeah,
lot of what they say, they most Christians would probably be like, yeah, that's true. Jesus is the only way. And if you're not worshiping Jesus and you're worshiping an idol, then you're probably gonna go to hell, but we're not gonna like hate on you for it
right,
openly anyway.
right,
I
right.
don't, I hope I'm not making offenses, but the point of that is that there's a lot of misunderstanding and conflict between I guess like perceived differences of religion because it's so radical that other religions don't know how to compute that. And so it's like this is like the base um kind of like instinctual reaction to that is to just hate. It's like you don't understand something, so I'm just gonna like spew all my anger. Like, you're so different, so I have to project my insecurities and my anger and hatred and wrath onto you because you're not conforming to my beliefs, therefore you're my enemy. You know, whereas, you know, someone who's spiritually minded doesn't approach differences in that way. They're seeking reconciliation towards the absolute truth because they're interested in absolute truth, not relative truths. Relative truth will stop at a point where it sees differences and say, well, you're just different, so you have to be wrong because my truth is obviously right, your truth is wrong. That's relative truth, you know, so you're not going to get anywhere with that.
Yeah.
um there
To have,
are definitely Christians who are interested in absolute truth, you know, and
yeah,
who look past external differences and who can
yeah,
really appreciate, you know.
yeah.
But generally, I think Christendom is pretty sec um like sectarian,
Well,
you know,
you know,
because there's that one passage that just it always comes down to for 99% of them is Jesus is the only way.
right.
It's
And
like that
uh,
is kind of an
yeah,
unfortunate thing that's come to that. What are you gonna?
and you know exactly. I think we've talked about this at length. Is you know exactly where I stand on the entire issue. Is that I tell everybody that I meet that I'm just Pentecostal enough to be a Hare Krishna. You know, I mean, there is indeed like a joining because Krishna consciousness at the end of the day is God consciousness. That's exactly what it is. Prabhupada talked at length about Jesus and his role in our beliefs at length. I'm not going to go into it right now, but I will say that in my years of being in the church in America, like the Christian church, the 20 years that I spent in the Christian church, I can definitely speak on it. And I can tell you that it has become a religion of America and it becomes the American Jesus, is what it becomes. And I know that there's a song about that. I don't want to mention that song right here, right now, but because I don't agree with the artist. I do agree with the song, but I don't agree with the artist. So
Gotcha. Okay.
there's going to be people out there who I know who he's talking about, but we're going to bypass that whole thing. What the point I'm trying to make is those guys that were protesting the Ratha Yatra for so many years are like the perfect example of like, we are going to win. We are America. And there's this
Mm.
nationalistic thing that sneaks in there. And and it's so based on like the prosperity gospel, and it's so based on like, you know, God wants me to win, he wants me to be the best, I'm going to be the best, stuff like that. I think that a lot of denominations would definitely not agree with that mentality. I really do. I don't think a lot of Pentecostals would agree with that. I don't think a lot of charismatics would agree with that. I don't think a lot like Methodists, or whatever your denomination, it seems to be just a sliver of these radical fundamentalists. But for whatever reason, that sliver seems to just get a little bit bigger. And it has gotten bigger in the last, I would say, definitely 20, 30 years for sure,
Okay.
because they've mixed in pop culture into the church. And you can't mix in pop culture without mixing in politics and popular politics. So now, you know, and when you go to some of these churches, they're like, hey, you want to come over and hang out and have some barbecue and check out my gun collection? It's like, you know, it's getting, and that's like this American thing, you know. That's why I say they've got the American Jesus, and unless you're in the club, you're not allowed, and that's all I'm going to say about that.
Wow.
Yeah, it's definitely a club.
Definitely what?
Definitely a club. A club. A club. It's a club. It's like a clubhouse. Ring ring. Hey, can I come up and hang out with you guys? I don't know. Do you like guns and eating meat? No, but I love Jesus. Well, okay, I guess you can come up then. So yeah, so what I'm saying is like there's this culture of there's it's you've got this kind of American culture that's being mixed in with the gospel, and it's not a good mix, is what I'm really
Yeah.
trying to say. At the point being,
Yeah.
very fine point being right there. Yeah,
Yeah, we had talked with John Priya about on the show that he was on.
that was good. That was
Yeah.
really good talking to him. That's a brother that gets it. You know, he understands. He's getting the full panoramic view. You
Yeah.
know, yeah. And there are people. There's so many good people out there like that too. You know.
Yeah, this mixing of popular culture in with the religion is, and the point that he often makes is, um, you know, you're you're going to church on the weekend, but then the rest of the week you're living exactly the same way as the rest of the world, and you're calling that religion,
Yeah.
and you're giving religion a bad name, and then you're kind of elaborating here, you're compensating for that by appealing to people who are getting turned off by religion by saying, "Oh, you can just be exactly how you are, just put this banner up, and here's why, and we're gonna show you how to hate everybody else that is different." Kind of, that's a little of a stretch, but ultimately that's pretty much where that leads. And what Prabhupada is saying about all of this is all of these things, this is the bodily platform of life. And there are, of course, gross levels of bodily platform where you're just engaged in wanton sense gratification. And then there are more subtle levels of bodily consciousness where you're taking up something in the name of religion or spirituality, but you're actually still completely absorbed in the body. And because even the concept of this was like the first point that he made when he came to America. I am not an Indian. You are not an American. We are not. I'm not a man. I'm not this color. I am not a Hindu. I am a pure spirit soul. That is as profound as it gets, because everyone is caught up in this conception. I'm American. I'm Christian. I'm male. I'm this. I'm that. I'm the other. These are all bodily conceptions of life. My guru was talking last night here at Mantra Oasis. He made it just an incredible class. I want to go back through it because he made such good points. And this one really, really clicked for me, this point of freedom, and how when we're in the modes, meaning we're identifying with the body, we're not free, we're bound. When we're acting in the modes of material nature, be they goodness, passion, or ignorance, right? These three modes that we're in, which these are the modes of the embodied condition, right? So if you are identifying in any way as your body, you're in these modes. And what occurs, because his class was taking charge of your life, and he was quoting Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 2, text 20, I think, around there, 18 through 20 range. Vidyate hridaya grantis chidante sarvasmshaya chiante chasya karmani drishta evat manishre. Drishta evat manishre means And this is like the finale verse of this string of very, very important verses that describe the whole process of bhakti from beginning to end, from the beginning of faith and hearing, and what occurs when you hear the transcendental sound vibration, that the Lord in the heart purifies you of all inauspicious things, and then the modes of material nature, passion and ignorance, lust and hankering, disappear completely from the heart. One becomes established in truth, in absolute truth, and they see things as they are. And then evatma nishvare, atma ishvara, they see their self as being in control. You become a master of your own life, in a sense. You're no longer pulled by the currents of time and karma, right? Which is what we're all caught up in. And so to kind of tie this back in a little bit, when we're in these bodily conceptions that I'm Christian, I'm Hindu, I'm white, I'm black, I'm male, I'm female, you're in a bodily concept, and that body has to move through time in karma in order to see results, in order to see some fructification. We're all going for self-actualization, some kind of realization in life. There's some kind of goal. It means there's a fruit, right? We're all chasing after some fruit, be it, material, mental, or spiritual. Everything has a fruit. And there's a point that Maharaj made that so amazing. Because someone asked, how do you know if Krishna, how do you experience Krishna reciprocating with you? He says, you realize it's a realization that all of your desires are fulfilled. And it was just like, wait, what? You have that consciousness? That was mind-blowing to me. Because I'm still thinking in the bodily concepts. I'm still approaching Krishna consciousness as a fruitive path. That I have to move through time, and I have to do certain things to get somewhere, to be something or someone. You're saying, no, you realize that right here, right now, Krishna is reciprocating with you. It's just surrendering to that. Right? And acting in the way that is pleasing toward him. Ultimately, it's and he was making this point of the servant, it's like serving God, yeah. And because I had said something in regards to this, and surrendering all of the desires for these external temporal results, which these other paths, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for some result in time, converting the heathens or this or that, achieving political, dominance or social influence or the right job, we were talking about before the show. It's how our mind is going. So you need that. Whereas the spirituals, the devotee says, no, I'm done pursuing all of those, and what was the point I was going to say? That it's with Krishna consciousness, you're experiencing him fulfilling your desires constantly, internally. I think I lost my little train of thought.
Hey, I was going to let you know that I've got the Bhagavatam. I have Canto 1, Chapter 2, verse 20. Is that where it was?
Is it Bidaya Hridaya Granthi? 20 or 21? I think this was 21, actually.
Okay. Evam.
What is the first word, the Sanskrit word?
For text 20, it's Evam.
Yeah. Evam. Yeah.
Prasana. Evam Prasana. For text 21, it's Bidyate. That's the one. That's the one that
I don't remember. I'd missed the beginning of it, of the class, or part of section of the class. So I'm not sure which one he started on. but there's like Nashta Pareshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya, or most people are familiar with that one. We chant it before every Bhagavatam class. And then the next three are these verses of Tadarajas Tamo Bhava Kama Lobadhyasche. It's like Rajas Tamo Bhava, like the Rajas in the tongue of the passion and ignorance, and then Kama Lobadhyasche, saying as well as lust and hankering. These things disappear from the heart. Then Evam Prasanna Manaso Bhagavad Bhakti Yogitaha, one whose mind has been enlivened by contact with pure devotional service. These Evam Prasanna Manaso Bhagavad Bhakti Yogitaha Bhagavad Tattva Vijnanam Mukta Sangasi Chaite, that this truth of bhakti becomes permanently, irrevocably established in the heart. And one becomes situated in sattva, in truth and knowledge. And so, yeah, you have seeing things clearly. This is a part of that as well, as when you're pulled by the modes, by this bodily concept, okay,
yeah,
then you can't differentiate the forest from the trees, right? You can't see what's going on. It's like a fish in water. It doesn't know that it's in the ocean. You don't know that you're being pulled, that you're not free, that you're totally being pulled. Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarva shaha ahankara vimuratma kartahamiti manyate. Right? Prakriti. So the Prakriti is doing everything. The gunas, they're doing everything. Sarva. But one who is bewildered by the false ego thinks kartahamiti manyate. I'm the doer. But it's like, if you were to just, and this is kind of like what psychedelics can do, is they temporarily like suspend you from the, those like deep mesh of the gunas, and it's just like, hey, by the way, you're not the doer. It's like, whoa, what's going on here? Of course, set and setting is kind of everything, and there's no way to have a pure experience, well, for the most part, outside of pure shamanic lineages, which have a connection with God, and are able to maintain a Shuddha Sattvic. Even that, unless you have devotion, you will not be able to have a pure set and setting, and therefore your experience will always be tainted. I'm using the psychedelic reference because it's people who can relate with that. It's a very good analogy for just the kind of macrocosmic experience of life, because you have this kind of dialed in, how to say, like, manifestation of like all of the inner workings, like your subtle body basically gets manifest. Psychedelic means the psyche is becoming mind manifesting. So what's the psyche? What's mind? That's the subtle body. So the gross level of material entanglement, is just the gross bodily concept of life. But as we were saying, like, there's also this subtle concept that is bodily platform. It's a mental platform, but you're thinking yourself to be your body because you're identifying with your mind, which is part of your body. So even that, it's still going to keep you ensnared and enslaved. You are bound to karma. And the path of jnana, it's like the second stage of human life, you could say. Like, first stage is karma kanda, or karma marga, is the path of trying to perform karma yoga. Like, okay, I get it. What goes around comes around. Let me try to do good things. Okay, maybe I'll take up this dharma of Christianity or Hinduism, or whatever, straight edge, and let me be a good person, and then good results will come. Then it's like, okay, you're going with the current, but you still don't know that you're in water. You're not a autonomous being. a spirit soul is totally distinct from matter, but you're just plunged in it. You can't even see. At least you're not trying to swim against the current, you
Yeah.
know, doing drugs and whatever.
Yeah.
But
Well,
then the second part, what's that?
it's okay. I think it's okay to at least mention
Mm.
psychedelics in a spiritual setting, because I mean, that doesn't that like kind of have like some weight to it in shamanistic circles and stuff like that. Like, I'm not afraid to talk about that whatsoever. We can talk about that for sure. Um, the I would imagine that we probably appeal to an audience that has had some experience with psychedelics, so we can talk about it. I'm not afraid to talk about it. Obviously, that's not what we're not saying go out and do a bunch of acid on this show. I just want to make that perfectly clear
Yeah,
too.
right.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, I want to make that perfectly clear, you know? Like, but I mean, for sure, that's kind of an interesting thing that we can touch on
Mm.
if you like, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But yeah, it does like it. I see where you're going with this, where it plays into like your gross body, your subtle body, your gross mind, your subtle mind, and how psychedelics do have that effect on your mind where it like it kind of takes you away and gives you a totally new perspective for sure. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's my background, I could say, before I came to Krishna consciousness, but more in a shamanic environment. But actually, the last phase of that was in a devotional environment in Brazil, Santo Daime.
Interesting. That is
Totally different.
interesting.
Yeah.
That I did. I guess you might have mentioned that one time before. I think when we were in a car ride, we were going up to a program in Oswego, and
Oh, yeah, yeah.
you had mentioned that. Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah,
go on. Yeah.
not that I want to get deep into that.
Oh, okay. Well, we
But
can.
I mean, we could.
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I think a lot of people that are the kind of people that I see this show reaching and that I want to reach are people that are real seekers, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's necessarily going to be in there. Um, I just kind of touch on it. Um, I'm not sure what I've talked about in the past and what people's understanding is. So I just try to give a brief thing.
Yeah.
And if you do want to inquire, um, we can definitely get into that. But the understanding as pertaining to the topic at hand is what is the effect on the consciousness, and what is the kind of level of consciousness. So
Yes.
yeah, um, these things. I mean, there's so many paths and tools and things you can do, and but really everyone's trying to be free because everyone is seeking pleasure and happiness. This is really what it all boils down to. I mean, we can go down all these different things, but bhakti just cuts right straight to the root of it. You're trying to be happy, but you don't know how to be happy. I was just reading that um earlier. I was actually rereading a purport by Srila Prabhupada in the Bhagavatam. Nobody knows what real happiness is. And I'm rereading it this morning, but when I read it, the last time I read it, um, I was just in a deeper mode of Maya. And I was like thinking, I was kind of some devil's advocate was coming up, and it's like, really, Prabhupada, like, how can you say that? you know, Getting in the mindset of people that don't know anything about bhakti. And it's like, how can you say that? Like, of course we know how to be happy. Like, I've experienced material happiness, and I still am attached to that, and I still consider that happiness and pleasure. How can you say that that's not pleasure? It's like, try to understand this is what you're describing as happiness, be it this karma kandya happiness or this jnana kandya happiness, which is the happiness of, oh, I get it. I'm going after fruits that are just, gross fruits of this world. They don't ever really satisfy me. So I have to kind of break out from the entanglement in the gross material world. And I love this thing that Kostuba brought up on Wisdom of the Sages, just on a recent episode of it's like warm, warmer, hot. Did you see
Oh, I
that?
heard that one. Yeah, I did.
Oh,
I
so good.
heard that
So
in
it's
my car.
like
I was
he
laughing.
says it so well. I just want to shuffle people to that episode.
I know.
I shared it with a friend from the school, because it's like, this episode will explain everything. It's so good. It's like, oh, okay, I'm supposed to live a pious life, as I was starting to describe earlier, like pious life, I'm going to follow this religion, whatnot. It's like, okay, it's karma. Okay, you're getting warmer, right? It's like, oh, okay, I'm supposed to like disentangle myself, or you're warm, right? I'm supposed to disentangle myself so I'm not experiencing the reactions of, gross karma. So, okay, now you're getting warmer. Yeah, you're on the right track. Then you get, oh, I see, there's a supreme being in control of everything. I'm supposed to devote my life to him. It's like hot, very hot. You're on it. You're stepping on top of it.
Yeah,
Your hands are on fire. We said
yeah,
as a kid.
yeah. I
Yeah,
know.
it's like, that's it. That's what we're going for. So pleasure, like, how do we get pleasure? How, like, what is real happiness? Is Prabhupada is trying to show us, like, you think you're experiencing happiness, but you can't see the forest from the trees. You're in the water, you're being pulled by this current, and you can't understand it. You're bound to everything that you do. It's practically all predestined. For all intents and purposes, you are completely bound by fate of just your karmic reactions. That, like, you could go to a palmist or an astrologer, you put whatever belief or superstition you want on that, but it's a fact that our lives are set up. You might think that you're in control of your life, but until you go through this process describing Srimad Bhagavatam, divinity and devotional service, and experience Bhide Hridaya Grantish, the piercing of the knot in the heart, all misgivings are slashed to pieces, and you see that, wow, I'm actually in control of my life. Because how? I am not being pulled to act in this world. This is what Gurudev was saying last night. I don't have to do anything. I had never thought of these verses in the way that he explained last night. It was so amazing.
Yeah, that's a
Like, we
good one.
all are being pushed to act. We're being forced to act at every moment. And sometimes we can kind of get away with feeling like, no, it's okay. I got a good life. I'm happy with this. Yeah, I have to work hard like an ass, but I've got my wife and kids, and I'm happy enough. I don't have the best life. I don't have the worst life. It's like, that's
Right.
not
Middle
that's not
class.
the happiness we're talking about.
Yeah, yeah,
That's not the freedom that we're talking. We talk about America, land of the free, home of the brave. That's not the freedom we're talking about. The freedom to own a gun, the freedom to defend yourself and vote and do all the things that America is so glorified for. That's
yeah,
not real freedom. Real freedom is when you're not forced in any way, either in the mode of ignorance or in the mode of goodness, passion, that you are completely free as a soul distinct from matter, and you're no longer bound by the bodily concept. I'm an American, I'm a male, I'm white, I'm this, I'm that, I'm a Christian, I'm a Hindu. You see, so this is coming back full circle. These concepts, they drag you, actually. Sometimes it feels like they're just gently pushing you, and like you're making progress yeah, I'm doing it. It's right. Oh, I'm being all that I can be as an American male. You know, I'm, pursuing a female partner, and I'm going to be happy with that. I'm getting a job as an American. I'm going to be, great as that.
Sorry, go
But
ahead. What were you saying? Yes.
well, if you're
All
pursuing
these things that,
things
yeah,
just based on your bodily position, your bodily status, have to understand that is so temporary.
yeah,
It's like, okay, you might be moving, looks like you're making progress, but then what happens is you have to, okay, you have to leave your body, and you're still just attached to the bodily concept of life, eating, meeting, sleeping, eating, what did I just say? Eating, sleeping, mating, defending,
yeah,
meeting,
meeting. Yeah,
meeting other people.
yeah, yeah. It's a new thing. All the kids are doing it over on TikTok now.
We're not going to go into what they're doing. I don't want to know. I don't want
Yeah, we're not going there.
to.
Oh my goodness. Well, we're
But
almost
devotion to God is what pulls you out of all that. And that's the bottom. Okay, so I was
that's where
just
we're getting.
set up
Absolutely.
how to actually be happy.
Yes.
Prabhupada is saying his purports, this is real happiness. That just being in that bodily consciousness, like you might think you're happy and experiencing pleasure, but what you don't understand is you're completely bound, head, hands, and feet. You're hogtied to your bodily concept and the concomitant actions and reactions. You know, it might seem like it's great on this end. You might even go to heavenly planets. Talk about sense gratification, talk about happiness and pleasure. It's otherworldly.
Yeah.
Like if you take all of that pleasure and enjoyment of this world and you just shrink it into one unit, the happiness in the heavenly planets is 100 times that.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
that's not even the highest realm in the material world. There are higher realms, Brahma Sukha, that, the platform of Brahma, the topmost plane of the material universe. It's thousands and thousands of times more than this world. But even that is a drop in the ocean of the pleasure. This is Rupa Goswami, is a drop in the ocean compared to the pleasure of pure, loving, devotional service to the Lord.
Yeah.
Because you're not bound. Okay, well, the other half of that point, you might be in the heavenly planets, but if you just stay on the bodily concept, where is that going to take you? Inevitably, you will cycle down to the bottom of the universe and experience hell, because that's the other side of the coin of being embodied in a material world. So you think that's happiness. How can you call that happiness? If you think getting drunk and partying at night on the weekends is happiness, how can you call the hangover happiness? You
Mm.
know,
Mm.
even if all of the enjoyment in the world was put in front of you, you wouldn't be able to do anything with any of it.
Yeah.
So this material body is very limited. We shouldn't fool ourselves in thinking this is where it's at.
Absolutely.
But again,
Absolutely.
that's not we just coldly reject this body and everything. It's the path of devotional service is sublime, no matter what path in life or what situation of bodily, status that you're in, you can devote yourself to the Lord. And by acting in the consciousness of how can I act in a way that is pleasing to God, not just like how do I follow the rules, regulations. It's like, a good servant will follow, but a great servant will anticipate, what does my master want me to do?
Yeah.
And that is very pleasing to Krishna. If you please Krishna, he will reciprocate. And you'll realize just like that, all of my desires are fulfilled. Why? How is that possible? And this is what like my mind was doing. It was just like, wait a minute. I thought like I had to have some kind of like situation or set up, or like I thought I had to get somewhere or be a certain way, become, be a certain person in order to experience even Krishna, in order to like feel God manifest in my life. Like as things are right now, no, I don't have the right job, I don't have the right partner, I don't have this. So how can you say that those desires are fulfilled? No, what he's saying is those desires are superficial. They're paltry compared to the real desires of the heart, which is to have a loving exchange, which there's no material prerequisite to any of that. Just having a real, genuine exchange with someone. That's how to satisfy your heart. And Krishna is always with you in your heart. You don't have to, he's always with you. So that means you can always serve him. That's his position. Other people like you and myself here, like we have an opportunity to exchange, a couple of times a week. But it's not like I can have very deep, intimate relation and exchanges with you or anyone else in this world to that, infinite superlative degree. That's the position of God. And that is what Krishna consciousness offerings.
So well said. So very, very well said. That is all of our time for this week, for this episode. I want to thank all of our viewers viewing us on YouTube. Thank you again. Comment, like, subscribe.
Yeah, comment. I wanted to make sure we added that.
Yeah.
Liking and subscribing, that's okay, but really engagement, if you're appreciating the show,
we're
engage.
like both like preaching out. Please comment. Tell us we look like Hindu Christmas trees. That's never gonna go away, that one. So yes, thank you for tuning in to our podcast. This is the Soul Ashraya podcast, and we have Krishna with us in our hearts. It's a reciprocal relationship. He loves you right where you are. Should we end doing the Maha Mantra 3 times? Okay.
Definitely.
Lead us off, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jayo Jagannath. Thank you once again, and we will catch you later. Haribo.
Haribo.